Welcome, 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 and good evening, everybody. Hey, I'm D Diva D from Carved Out Divas, and to my
April.
right.
April Carr from April's Beauty Bar. Don't you can't do more than one thing at a time, so don't even start it. Don't start it.
I just think it's neat. Look at that. There she is. Okay.
And we are diversity
And equity.
and education. I'm gonna finish my last bite of sandwich. Okay, y'all, hold on.
What you eating?
It's gone now.
Oh, okay. No, I clearly see a whole half a sandwich left after that, just one bite. So
That's
I
just
don't know about
bread.
that. Oh,
All
that's
the meat
bread.
gone.
Okay, I'm just saying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? I mean, I guess this ain't breaking news, but one of the very first things that you obviously will find out again is that our governor has closed us down for the rest of the school year.
You think the
We'll get back.
governor is responsible for that?
Well, I think Corona has been responsible for pretty much everything that's going on so far.
Well, I think that teachers were not going to go back, and parents had already indicated that as well. So I think that's why we're not going back.
Let I absolutely agree with that because I know I was in like the classroom that I know wasn't clean from top to bottom. So but that was just my personal thing. Me personally, I knew I wasn't going back. But yes, so that's pretty much how that is right now. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a trip around the world and then we'll come right on back to Tampa. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Just looking at things that's happening around the world as a result of coronavirus. So one of the first things that we're looking at for the week was that black people, our people, all over the world, but most specifically, let's look at China. So this week, all of the Africans and African Americans, anybody that was of African descent, was strategically just removed from. First, it seemed like McDonald's, then it seemed like the neighborhoods, then it seemed like the streets, and it's just everywhere. And there you go, because we need always have to have our evidence. There it is. McDonald's is just the first thing. It started with McDonald's just getting rid of black people up there because they kept saying that the black people were the carriers. But isn't it the thing is this? Isn't it interesting that
You're getting started, Wuhan. Wait a minute.
But what killed me is it's interesting that black people are supporters of every other culture. And we do a lot of things where we spend a lot, especially here in hair stores and all the nail shopping. We do have a lot of we spend a lot of dollars into different other communities. But isn't it interesting now you're going to put the black people out? But then they say in China, go ahead. They say in Africa, a lot of Chinese have a lot of land there as well. So why are we not seeing the reciprocal take place? But go ahead, tell me.
I just was getting ready to say that I seen a live where a gentleman was actually in China in a McDonald's and the actual workers were running from him as if he literally was the virus itself and was holding up the letter in front of him saying, and the letter read that, Black peoples were not allowed to be into the restaurant. And I was like, is this fiction? Because
no.
I don't understand.
Right.
But come to find out, it was fact.
Very true. Very true. So just keep. And I guess for me, I want to say that people just need to keep in mind, in the future, after all this passes, and God willing that we all live in our life after this, just keep in mind things that you support as time go by. Okay, and look at how well this country this is how they treated black people or this establishment, and then. So just keep things in mind like that, because we're one thing about us. We spend a lot of money outside our community. That's just how we do. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to address real quick was, listen, I'm glad the schools are closed. Unfortunately, the beaches are open, so we're just looking at the second wave coming. That's just great. We're gonna close the school and leave the beaches open. But okay, I don't make those decisions. So, but let's talk about. So far, and we're just looking at the city of New York. Remember, I said we're going around and we're going to come back to Florida. We're looking at the city of New York. There was an article posted that showed the principals and teachers who have already passed in this epidemic, and it's sad because I look at what it's going to do to the children, how it's going to affect them, because now you're talking about a teacher that was your teacher this year, and now if and when you go back to school. the teacher is no more. I mean, the amount of counseling that's going to be needed for the schools and for the rest of the employees that are in there is going to be traumatic. And it's just that it's just a sad thing. So I look at it across the country now. Not only do we already have deficits in reading and mathematics and things like that, now you're going to talk about if by the time it takes, I mean, you know, at the end when the toll comes to count in, and you start looking at schools and education, I wonder how bad the factors are going to be for education. So I'm glad the schools are closed because of that particular reason. You
know? I just think that with the schools closing, we kind of knew it from the beginning. I think that there should be no more delays in key information that the children and the parents need to know. And in order to reduce the amount of anxiety that clearly is out there, you know, amongst those individuals. I don't know why my phone won't stay on. It's something weird going on. Like it keep blinking on and off, like as if I'm not in the app. I don't know. Okay, but anyway, I just think that we need to definitely collectively be mindful of that. You know, some parents still may not even know that school has been closed for the remainder of the school year. So, you know, as teachers begin to move in that direction to share that information out to, you know, those families that are disconnected from all that is going on, you know, just have a mindset of sensitivity in all of this, because again, for the 8th graders that's going to high school, that is detrimental to them because they won't see majority of their friends. Remember, 8th grade is that year where everybody gets spread it out throughout their high school choices, unless they're going to the school in their neighborhoods. And in a lot of cases, most of our kids, you know, a lot of our kids go to magnet schools, and things just start to, you know, cherry pick in different communities. And it just becomes a point of they're concerned with it. I spoke with my girls today because we do a session on Sundays at 4. And, you know, for those that are high schoolers, you could just see, you know, the toll that it has taken on them to learn that as of yesterday, that we're not going back. So I was like, how do y'all feel about that? And they couldn't do anything but just kind of like what the response was what they want us to feel, because at this point, again, they feel as though this is something being done to them and not something that's happening globally around the world. They can't process what's actually happening. They don't get it. They just think that this is the way that the adults are responding to this, and we don't understand it.
Right. And that's why it's so important to have logical, sensible, calm, rational leadership. Because if you had that and I'm talking from the way to the top, 45, thank you. And if you had that, then people would be in such less of a panic mode. I mean, you're talking about we running out of supplies, and people not realizing hurricane season coming. You killing out all the supplies now. What about hurricane season? It's around the corner. So
and the kids may understand the part about well, why are the beaches open but we can't go back to school?
Right.
Why are the beaches open and some of us are not going to be able to go to our end of year activities? Like, they don't get that. They don't get the fact that the beaches are open. So like they don't get it. And to be honest, I don't get it either, but
but this is exactly, but you know what, this topic, you know, if we did not teach to a test, all these past 1,500 plus years we've been teaching to a test, more kids would have gotten the simple history. They would have gotten some social studies, which would have included the 1918 pandemic. Because if they knew about the 1918 pandemic from a history class, instead of all of us teaching to the FCAT and teaching to this test and teaching to the whatever test that we always have it, they would have known, wait a minute, not only was it bad when it first started, but it had a second wave that made it even worse because people ran out in the street too early instead of sheltering in place, as they call it. So it makes perfect sense why kids would just I don't understand why I'm trapped in the house. I don't understand. And see, that's a classic case of history repeating itself, because obviously if you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. Doomed to repeat it. Okay?
Those are facts.
And that's the fact. And so I think there's an article right there. It's a parade that killed thousands. this was the ticker tape parade that they had in New York City because the country was going off to war. So they say, let's have this parade out there for these soldiers, and let's go ahead and, you know, let's go on the streets and we're just going to celebrate and everything like that. And don't you know, back in when the flu season kicked in again, you know, around November, December time, all of a sudden now everybody's sick again. And it was worse that second round. So the things that we need to keep in our mind, right? And go research it for yourself because it's there. This is factual, okay? So the thing that we need to keep in mind is that if we've only seen the first part of it, we haven't, are we still gonna go through hurricane season? Then we got to turn around and go back through the flu season again, which starts around December. Okay, so if we need to be very, very closing school is good. It's good, but also my biggest concern is when we reopen again. We need to be reopening and making sure that everything is in its correct place, including the sanitation. Like, have you seen those videos of this, they're sanitizing the street? What have you sent it to me? What is sanitizing the streets? All these different countries are out there in the streets, just sanitizing the streets and things like that. Okay, but you know, you're not seeing that here at all. At least anybody has, let me know. But that's what you need to do. You need to have time to do that, to clean the places up and have everything ready for people to go back to school. So we're gonna see how that goes. But you know what? Let me tell you what, on the positive side of all this,
not only go back to school, but to work as well.
Yes.
Because even they think about the amount of people that use public transportation. Like it is much bigger than the mind can even wrap itself around to think about what the impact is just for one person. And we just think about how daily we get up, go to get in our cars, touch this, touch that, breathing air in a certain airspace. If we sit and think about that alone, it's too much to wrap your head around for millions of people. Like, that's just beyond what the mind could even think about. So I understand the level of stress that DeSantis may have, but I just would like to say, allow the people with degrees and experience in the medical field to do what's best for people, because science must have some type of, you know, logic to go with it, but it's the science behind it first. Y'all hear the good music?
That's neighbor. Bouncing. And gotta let the bass hit in first, and then the highs and the lows and the trebles and everything. That's why you can't just turn the car off. You gotta turn off all the layers of the car.
He do that when he come in, and he do that when he going out. So he gone.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I'm quite entertaining as well. I'm entertaining. But let me tell you, besides all this, outside of all this that's been taking place, we have to draw some positives, because, you know, people tell you gotta get some positive out of it. Okay. The positive, the one major positive that's happening since all this took place, there has not been a school shooting at all for the month of March or April.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, think about it. But my question is this: the anger has to be displayed somewhere. So, you know what? I mean, just because there's not a school shooting doesn't necessarily. So what happens to all the people who were doing all the school shooting? Where they at?
They're not in school.
But I'm just saying. Thank you, Bianca. Let me get a quick shout out real quick. Thank you, Bianca. We are being hosted by Teaching for the Culture as usual with our fabulous, fantastical, amazing host with the most, Bianca Goolsby. Thank you very much. But that's my question too, because remember we talk about mental health. Where do those people go? Or is their mental health getting better because they're not being bullied in school? You know, think of all the factors that are now being removed from kids who really feel like the invisible kids, the ones not seen, the ones that are just like everybody just pass over. A lot of them do regress into that's why they play so many video games, things like that. A lot of them, that's their time to shine. So I'm wondering if they're actually getting better by being home. The thought processes, that's when you talk to psychiatrists. Because there's a thought processes that they throw out at you like, yeah, you know, I haven't even thought about it like that. But it makes sense. Okay. And that's why no school shooting. So you have to look at it's like the earth itself with the turtles. There's one article with all these turtles who came back to the beach. and all these lions are laying in the middle of the street in places in Africa, and you just see animals just coming out. Animals are actually walking up to people's houses and looking all around, and they're like, wait a minute,
where humans at?
Right, people all right? Because there's all kinds of stuff, creatures just everywhere. We're like, where y'all been? We out here in the street. Y'all ain't shot at us yet? What happened?
We out here in these streets.
We ain't being stalked, stabbed, nothing like that. What happened? And so it's just amazing how, you have to look at the positive, that in the midst of the negative, you have to always look at the positive situation. So that's I'm grateful for. So now, how about I put on some glasses? Okay, hold on. Let's talk about your county, because I can't even claim this county. No, I'm just gonna claim my home. I'm not gonna claim this county.
All right, so there's some people out there. There's Andra, hello, Alvin. There's Demetra, Dr. Edwards. She said there's no bullying. Y'all, this phone. Why would it be doing this? And it's real hot. So I'm gonna go out and go back in to see if that helps.
Okay, cool.
It is on fire.
Okay, so poor thing. And I need my glasses, so I can't. Okay, but yeah. So Demetra, what you said, it was because there's no bullying. Listen, it's all about a classic case of cause and effect. Obviously, something happened over here that's gonna make something else happen over there, and so we can't. We have to learn to look at things and say to ourselves, you know what? There in every situation, it got to be a silver lining. Got to be a positive to it, and it truly is a positive to it. So, for example, this week we had we talked about just technology and how technology is taking such a powerful role right now where we are, and we're just like, some of us want to embrace it, but some of us don't. We talk about technology, April. The article was about the laptops in school and technology and things that we found as the deficit for the kids and things that we found positive. So first of all, you tell me, how's it been so far with your online teaching so far and response? That's what I'm looking for.
Well, this week it was a decline because once we were able to get the parents on the week prior, everybody was just kind of scrambling, saying what I need to do. So we was getting the kids on, on board technology wise. But then parents made the assumption, because I can only base it off the lack of engagement this week, is that, now since they're on, they're going to do the work independently. There's no need to monitor them. Nah, them kids playing Fortnite on the computers. Right. This week, I went from, over 50% of the students actually engaged in work to less than, it had to be no more than like about between 10 to 15% that was working.
Wow.
So it's not because they don't have access to the technology. It's because now there's, it wasn't that parent overshadowing them to say, hey, what you doing? Why you doing it? Right. So I began my massive text today and, calls to say, hey, they picked up the computers. They were working the week prior. What had happened was, and most parents are like, wait, what? Huh? They said they was working. If I hear they said they were working one more time, I'm going to lose it. No, we can't go off of what they said. Who is they? You need to check the computer.
Right. They put them in the mindset of being little adults. I'm like, this is not a little adult. Like the one child who it took me 6 days to get a call back. And it wasn't until I sent messages to him and everything and I sent 3 messages to the numbers that's listed in the parent call back. And then I said, I've been trying to get in touch with this baby for like 3 weeks, and she said, he said he's doing the work. I said, well, okay. However, here's the login time. I said, I don't see any work done. And I said, he hasn't checked his EDSB because the poll, by answering the poll, I know he's checked them just by answering the poll. You automatically get credit for just answering the poll. Just yes or no, 2 questions. That's it. And so, yeah, I said, so a lot of people, I don't know, like I said, the kids are from my experience is either that they're going to act like they don't understand what they're doing, or they just like, I just refuse to do the work. One kid actually wrote to me and said, I'm not doing this work. So I'm like, okay, all right. But I'm glad you wrote it on there so that, when somebody asks me, I'm like, here's the response that he wrote. He ain't doing it.
Mine goes so far to create an account on the platform that captures that have the assignments and captures their grades there. So I see where you set the account up, but you didn't do nothing.
Right.
And then the response is, I don't know how to log in. You could not have set up your account if you did not log in. Do you know what you're saying?
I have.
So yeah, so it's definitely going to require a continuum of teachers, you know, putting them phone calls in and them text messages in and them Google Voices in and them ESBs in and them wraparound in and the in and in.
It has to be
in.
And we come in 3-4 times a week. I mean, because I'm just like, there is no way in the world. And that's the thing. The kids are smart, but they're not using logic behind how smart they are.
No.
So they're like, I don't know how to log into this. But I said, but if you've logged into Clever, obviously you've logged into the program, because the program won't even show up unless you're logged into Clever. So how are you telling your mama I can't get in? That you in?
And I pick up the phone and literally have called at least about 30 parents and their children called to set them up, walk them through it. I can't even see their screen. I'm just assuming, look, I'm walking through it while I'm doing it while they open their computer. So it has definitely been an adventure, but I will say that now is the time, parents, to once again, like as if they were in school, help us.
Yes.
Help us.
Yes.
Help us help your child so we all can demonstrate greatness.
Correct. I mean, listen, please, like this is what I'm asking too. Don't get frustrated after the child, and you know what they too. This is the time. And let me tell you something. When we come back to school, whenever that is, God willing, I don't want a parent to come back and say to me, you know, he don't act like that. Yes, he does, because you've had him for months, and you know exactly how he acts. So, like this week, when she can't figure it out. I said, this child is the smartest child in my classroom. It's not that she can't figure it out.
And they're the ones that's doing it the most.
She don't want to do it. I said, this child tell me what to do. This child don't want to do it. So,
and we have to remember too that their overall remember, we had to get them to a place to where motivation became more self-proclaimed. It wasn't they walked into the classroom with the majority of our students just self-motivated like that. You only have like a handful of kids that come in self-motivated. We have to build them to that, and that comes in. Come in, sit down, get your pencils out, take your book bag out. It's a series of steps that we have embedded in them. So they're trying to shift their mindset from learning in a classroom to pandemic learning, to where that motivation may not necessarily be there from the parents, and that motivation might be a whole bunch of cussing.
It might be
every name that's not a part of their birth certificate, and then that is, you know, suppressing them at that point to where they don't want to do it even more.
Right.
So it's definitely going to be an adventure on this pandemic express.
Right. And you know what? I think too that they just because of we're going through right now, the loss. Remember even before the school year, while earlier in the school year, we talked about the loss that kids have during the summer months, and what they lose during Christmas. Okay, you know they are going to lose a lot right now. So to me,
for the ones that's working, they shouldn't though.
But I'm saying the ones that's working is not going to be the majority. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're looking at the ones who are losing information because they're not doing any of the work. We shouldn't even have testing and going into next year, because we if you don't have testing this year, you need to go back and rebuild all the skills that are going to be lost throughout the summer and throughout at least the end part, the tail end. They're not thinking about a test, and we got to get them started back over again. And I think honestly, it would at least show you, if you did not test, since we didn't test this year and we don't test again next year, you can imagine the type of growth you might be able to see that third year though. It's just a thought. Because you could probably do a lot
that means,
more.
We know that's not going to happen, because that means people that have investments in the education testing and, you know, their consulting firms and all that, the big wigs are attached to them. They're
True.
not going to allow that to happen. So testing, I'm pretty sure, is going to be on schedule next year, which is so interesting because at some point they were saying that I'm confused about the high school scenario with EOCs. Now, if FSA is considered the highest priority in most cases in our situation for standardized testing in the state of Florida, and those kids don't have to go back and make up that test that they're going to miss this year, why is it that the children for algebra, geometry, or whatever their EOCs are, they still have to pass that test or pass the next level class that they're in? Like, I don't understand that. If you're getting a clean sweep it away. Don't hold that over those kids' heads, because right now they're not getting the same quality of teaching that they would get into in front of a classroom teacher, because that classroom teacher was not a virtual teacher from the beginning, in essence. And remember, there is instructional design that goes along with being a classroom teacher versus a virtual teacher versus there's different designs to that. So if they're not going to change the design of the test to be in alignment with how they shifted from classroom teacher to this pandemic learning, then that's just not fair to the child. Because it's very they have pieces to the puzzles, but the image for the puzzle has changed. It's not the same anymore. So they got to do something different. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah. So I mean, we all know it's all about money too. So I mean, they're not gonna stop it. But I'm just saying logically.
So Portia said that they still need to pass the FSA ELA. High schoolers will be tested as retakers. So help me understand that. So if they're high school seniors, how does that work then? Those kids are getting there. I don't understand that, Portia. Help me understand. Help me.
But I thought they would cancel all testing, and that's what throws me off.
I need clarity on that. It says that let's go back. There was a bunch of messages. Grenita says some of my students are regressing at home. I understand. I got two, Grenita, that doing the same thing. But when they regress, I address and pull out the So Kamisha says that's my desire. No testing next year. Protest. Girl, see you keep saying we done told you about agreeing with certain stuff and putting your 30 cents in here. Somebody gonna unprint. But Audra says they will do fall makeups. Who? The seniors? We're just referring to the seniors right now, and whatever they have to do or should have done and did not do, and they're still going to graduate. We want to know, why is it that the kids that are in high school that information just isn't swept away, like we're assuming that it was initially presented by DeSantis at the beginning phases. Portia says I'm willing to bet that they will see a higher pass rate on reading and math concordant on alternate tests. Okay.
For diploma.
By senior year, you have to pass. Audra, we know that. We know by senior year, the 10th grade bench. We know all of that. That's not my question. My question is, Portia Taylor, high school teacher. What, in the event a senior had not already met the requirement for passing FSA 10th grade and their EOCs, because many of them would have been taking some EOCs at the end of this quarter, during FSA time, will they still graduate? That's my question. Will they graduate? Janice said, I agree that you may see a huge turnaround in testing scores because of 1x1 learning. My first grader is better reader at home. Yep. Okay, we'll agree. We agree totally.
Wait, to Portia says something.
The seniors will need to test as retakers. They would. How? Listen. Okay, we need you to come on and explain this, because you're not making any sense. Once they graduate in May, you telling me that they got to still come back and come on, Portia. Let's send Portia the link.
Yeah, because that's a little.
Let me send you a link, Portia. We need some help. We need some clarity. Can you come on if we send you a link? Because I don't understand. I don't understand. We know you are expert in that because you are a high school teacher. So we need clarity. So you can educate us on only seniors this year got the requirements. Wait, right? Okay, so that's my point. Now, with that being said, if the seniors got the requirement waived, why aren't all the other children going from 11th grade back? Whatever requirement they should have met in their current school year, why isn't that waived completely?
She said also the rising seniors will be retakers.
That's not my question. She answered my question when she said only the seniors this year, the requirements are waived. So if you're a 10th grader and you did not take your ELCs, you still got to take them. Help me understand that. So that feels like the kids are being penalized. Does that make sense to you?
No, but you know,
so are the third graders that see, and it still doesn't make sense because it's not consistent. So the third graders that should have taken their FSA,
they're gonna just move on, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't understand it.
We're going to need to find some clarity, and we're going to have to find someone who's going to be clear for us. That's what we need to do. And then she says she can't come on. What's going on with that?
I read it. Okay. She says, send me the link. I got a hat. Here we go. Thank you, Portia. Yeah, because that's not making any sense to me, because I wonder if the elementary teachers receive different information, because that's just not, I don't get that.
But it seems like they, you know, it's not really in alignment all the way. So I don't understand that either, because I'm like, this is, like I said, this is a situation that we just don't understand. So we have to make sure we're real consistent, and it's infuriating for those who are going to graduate. And then of course that leads into all their, you know, their all the things that they want to do for graduation, which is an actual graduation ceremony, which I'm a little concerned about that myself, because I wouldn't want to have that. But then at the same time, you know, I feel bad for the seniors, you know, because they a lot of them might not get traditionally the way they want to have it. So we'll see. So Portia says you don't come on.
I sent the link. Okay, Janice said she's probably waiting on Bianca. So it says, how do we prepare at home for these kids that are not in testing year? Those that will be tested. That's my point, Janice. Being that they did not get the test prep,
right?
How we're expecting them to be? I guess they're supposed to be doing it on their own and with parents. Well, we already see that that's an inequitable process by itself. So I don't know. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. If I had a third grader, I would be concerned. If I had a 10th grader that had not, I just would be concerned all across the board. In the event, I don't know. That's weird. That's complex.
And then what makes it a worse situation is in the event that somebody fails them. So say, for example, if they fail for some reason. Well, wait a minute. How could you truly justify that if we didn't finish the school year? All right, here comes Portia. Hey.
So hey, Diana said, is it third grade based off a portfolio if they fail FSA? And that's also if they collected documents for the portfolio. And true. I don't want to hear anyone in the district say that all third graders have a portfolio, because I know for a fact that is not the case. In most cases, they start collecting documents for the portfolio in third and fourth quarter. So yeah, no. Now, is it supposed to be that way? On paper, yeah. All right, Taylor, let's hear it. Hey, give us some clarity.
Okay, so the direction that we got is as the high school teachers, because I have current seniors and then I have 10th graders. So the current seniors, so my seniors that were slated to graduate in May, got all of their requirements waived. So the ones that needed the reading either pass FSA or reading concordant. They no longer needed to meet that requirement. And the same with those who needed the Algebra 1 requirement, and even those who still needed to pass US History, ELC, Geometry, ELC, all of that is waived. So 100% of these kids are going to graduate if they got the credits in the GPA. That's this year's seniors. Now, rising seniors, rising juniors. So that's current 10th graders, which are rising juniors, current juniors that are rising seniors. Those kids, according to what was put out by Davis and by the state of Florida, they still need to meet state requirements. So that means rising juniors, so those current 10th graders that did not get the chance to meet the state requirement for, let's say, ELA, are all going to be considered as retakers. So that means it means a lot, because that also impacts scheduling. Typically, if they take reading in 10th grade, that determines whether or not they're going reading or not.
Right.
We're not sure what that looks like. We don't know if you just put them all in reading, or if you just go by old data, or you look at progress. I think schools are still trying to figure out what that looks like. But from what we have gathered, all of them will be tested as retakers, meaning they will take an FSA in October, and if they don't pass it, they'll be taking it again in the spring, and they'll be taking SAT, meaning they are still required to meet the state requirements, and the same with math. Also, what we saw, and you were asking about elementary, third graders, this is the pass or not year. From what I understand, and again, just really reading it, they're not necessarily looking at portfolios. I think they're passing them all unless they're having other conversations with parents. And I think parents have say so whether or not a kid stays back or not.
Now, back to that portfolio situation, Audra. I know for a fact you may have had to have done it, but I know for a fact. No, I'm talking about, she said, she was telling someone on here that they do it in fourth quarter. Not all teachers do it that way. So that's maybe have been now you done it, but some teachers start collecting data for the portfolios in third quarter and moving forward into the fourth. So that's not all the way true. It's different. Teachers do different school sites, different administrators, different coaches require different things for their school site. So maybe for you, that was the case.
And for me personally, because I've had that personal experience with my kid, I started having that conversation with my school in January, where they're looking at his iReady data. They was looking at his progress in reading and writing. And in January, they were like, we might need to start really looking at doing portfolios for him.
Right. And that's what happened with the twins, is one of the twins as well. So, and they started in January as well. Right. Third quarter.
But because it's not the same across the district, I don't think they can fully rely on portfolios.
Right.
Say
that again. They'll do what?
It's not consistent across the school, across the district.
Oh, okay.
So they can't fully rely on portfolios. So I think you kind of got a default to everyone pass unless a parent want to hold them back.
Right.
So, so again, next year, the problem is going to be, it's hard to argue the validity or the need for an FSA when all of a sudden everybody can just pass.
Right.
And because they are missing essentially a quarter of instruction. Like I think you mentioned it before, Cobb, these kids are being penalized if they do move forward with testing.
That's a good question. And my next thing is, who is it going to impact the most negatively?
Okay, because when you think about it,
who
is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah, no, that's for real. I want to know what both of y'all think.
It's going to be our ESC kids. It's going to be our kids of color, because our ESC kids and our kids of color are missing a lot right now. And to then go back into school in August and say, all right, you need to take these tests, that they've missed a lot of instruction. And then even as a teacher with no recent data, it's really not recent, but I don't even know where they are. It's going to take me a minute to even really diagnose where they are to get them where they need to be. For me, I'm scheduled to have mostly seniors. So luckily my kids took a SAT, so I can look at SAT, but I don't have an FSA score, and they're gonna take it in October.
What about you, Denise?
Yep. Now, listen. Remember, I got level 1. That's my crew. That's my squad. Okay. And within, just like you said, within that grouping, you do have ESC. You do have those who do have a lot of IEPs. Those who are specialized 504 plan. And I can't see how 1 year you're going to take away something and then immediately say they because the gaps are big. And for me to say, well, okay, I'm going to bum rush them with testing. I can't see the success there. I mean, I worked, it took me a long time to get them from where they were in August to when January came and they had that round of their common lit testing. They did well, but that was huge. I mean, but I was consistent. There's your word again. Consistently working with them.
Right.
Now we are not going to see each other again. That's it. My 7th graders gone. Okay.
Right.
And now you're going to bring a new 7th. I'm getting that fresh crop of 6th graders from this year. They come into me with, okay, my school year is finished in April. Right. In March, March.
So Denise, you're battling. They lost 4th quarter, and then that looming gap of the summer that is already against them with level 1s. It's the same me. I'll have 10th grade, so that means I'll be getting level 1 ninth graders essentially who have missed everything. Half of them not even doing none of the work now, and then you talk about summer, and tell them we need to get ready for Common Lit in September.
Right.
And let's talk about for 6th grade, where so many 4th graders jumped from 4th to 6th.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then we come with our foundational skills just not intact with basic math fluency and addition.
Yes.
And subtraction.
Yes. Yep.
Like that's really scary.
And then Cobb, that's not even really what they're doing right now. Even on Diversi, they're not even doing foundational skills. They're not practicing multiplication, and then they're gonna come to you once you teach them algebra. So it's going to be extremely interesting. I would love to see how the district handles summer school. Hopefully they will do it an expanded summer school, something very similar to Pinellas County that does with Summerbridge. I think I read something like that from Addison Davis, because it's going to be really needed. But then you're only talking maybe a fraction of the kids participating in that, right? You know, and they're all going to come back in August. So it's going to be very interesting and very difficult. But yes, to answer your question, this year seniors are done. They're graduating as long as they got.
Right.
Now, you know, a lot of teachers, I know for me particularly, at the same time that they announced that a lot of their scores came in, a lot of them made the concordance. So that's
right. I remember you saying that.
But those that didn't make it are still going to graduate if they got the GPA and the credits. So the message that sends is that then the test, FSA, or any of these requirements are arbitrary and not even necessary. If you're saying they could just get a diploma.
And some states don't use standardized tests.
Don't even use it. Right. And let me tell you, and that's the thing. So this takes it all back to money, because if it's not necessary, why are you paying somebody for a test that it really ain't necessary?
Right.
Let me sit for a second.
Legs, run across the room. Run him across. Glory.
There you go. There you go right there.
So FSA needs to take flight and don't come back. Just take flight.
That's correct.
Yes.
Take flight.
Yes. And then I know for high school, they're going to then start looking at PSAT scores. Try to meet concordance scores. And I mean, again, that's what I made the comment. I'm willing to bet kids will get the concordance scores, because if you're going to use tests, you need to use more valid tests. But then we can argue the issues with SAT in a whole nother segment, because there's a whole lot of issues with that test in itself. And in reality, you really are only teaching them to pass a test.
Correct.
And that's why you lose a lot. And then if you remove the test, you will see a difference in the teacher performance and the student performance. Remove the test. But again, collectively, we don't have enough people in our communities that have the voice. No, let me say this. Enough people in our state, in the communities that own these children that can make demands on things as such to not be in existence.
Right.
Like we have entrusted political organizations to be at the forefront of making sure that our children's education is that of the quality that we assume that they're delivering. And as we can see, and if parents have not noticed nothing else, the learning gaps are there, and they're in a high population of children that we know have existed for decades. And so I always say, for individuals that have been in offices prior to today, meaning this day, even myself, teachers that have been in positions prior to this day and still are not saying anything about what has happened in the past that led us up to this, we are part of the problem. And I will say, Cobb, you was part of the problem, because for the last 15 years, you kind of just been assuming that they've been doing what they needed to do.
Yeah.
And not really taking notice of it until you start to really hone in. And it's actually been more than 5 years. When I made the decision to leave Adams, because of some of the things that I just knew wasn't right happening to the children in Sulphur Springs and Riverview Terrace, and not getting the ear of the individual that can make choices and decisions, because, you know, it is some cliques that go on. It is the ones that meet at the houses, enjoys beers together and all that other stuff there. Your voice just will never be heard to be like, oh, it's not a black-white thing. Yes, hell, it is a black and white thing.
Yeah.
And until we start talking about the black thing, the black issue, the black problem for our black children, and primarily black boys, this issue is going to continue to grow. It's not going to get better. We're not addressing it. We keep saying we're going to address it, but it's not being addressed.
Yeah.
So, so there's some comments. Audra said, I have a 10th grader. I got this email, so she will be taking all tests in the fall. Okay. And it says, Diana, Elvis says, children that do not have parents in African-American community and District 5 to advocate for them are going to find themselves with bad enough, with a deal that's going to be bad for them. Well, yeah, totally true. Then Janice says, is there any substantial difference in the approach and impact plan given if the school is a Title I school or not? No. We give schools different titles, and the titles are supposedly in order to determine extra funding. Yeah. But in the plan, then that's part of the problem too. The plans don't differ from school to school. And they should differ. We write it on paper that they should, but in all honesty, they're treated the same.
Let me say this, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. And when she says plan, meaning the instructional plan, I am working in Title I schools primarily, and now I'm not in a Title I school, but should be a Title I school. The pressures on Title I achievement versus non-Title I achievement is vastly different. And I'll give it, for example, my particular school is primarily migrant down here in South Hillsborough. It's not Title I because we don't get the applications in, but the need is the same. So there's a vast difference in funding, but what we don't get is the micromanage of achievement schools and Title I schools. And being primarily working in high needs Title I schools. I've worked at Adams, I've worked at Chamberlain, I've worked at Spoto. So the pressure from a lot of other people to do things at these schools, I think in a lot of times are more counterproductive and does not give teachers the right resources to really help the kids. They'll funnel the money for technology. They'll funnel the resources, the coaching, the training. However, teachers are saddled in meeting after meeting, looking at data point after data point, being told to do best practice after best practice that have not been researched, but sounds good.
Say that again. It hasn't been what?
It hasn't been researched, and it sounds good. It presents well. But we're not seeing the movement in the kids then there's a problem with that system versus a non-Title I school where there's no one walking in the classroom. I do have the freedom to do whatever I want to do. No one's even looking at what I'm doing, yet I feel more productive. I'm seeing the difference in the kids. I'm seeing more production out of my kids. I'm seeing more production in my day because I'm not sitting in ILT, PLC, ALT, all of these meetings. Because the focus is the kids. So I think,
wait, what?
The focus is the kids.
Okay, can you come across the screen? Hold on 1 second. We just need to see him come across.
Take off. The focus is about who? Take off, Liz.
Take off.
There it is.
There you go. Take off. Take flight. That's what I'm saying. Take flight.
And that's what we're missing. That's what we're missing.
Yeah. The teachers who are working in achievement schools primarily are working there because they want to work there. It is not the stipends. It is not the extra technology. It's because teachers are choosing to work in those schools, meaning they have a bigger stake in the outcomes. And when you have what I call suits, walking in, calling all these meetings, doing all these walkthroughs, standing outside the classroom, discussing what they just saw.
Hold on, and doing clipboard and swiping and all that. But they could not walk in the room and do what that teacher is doing. Period.
Right. So I say, period. And I hope and pray when they're looking at our structures that we really look at how we are actually targeting and actually supporting these schools and supporting the teachers. And it starts with trusting the teachers. And it starts with allowing the teachers to actually be creative and teach their children. And sometimes, you know what, that looks like basics. Sometimes sometimes it's not always a real robust, cute lesson that you can put on the video and advertise. It is basics because the kids cannot do a thing without the foundations, period. So when we have our suits who are targeting these schools and we're supporting the teachers, we need to look again. And I've been saying it for years. What is coaching and what does support really look like? When we say coach, when we say support, what is that? A meeting? Is that a data board? Is that a word wall? Is that a radar checklist? Like what? Because that's what we've been doing. But can these same people walk in front of that classroom and teach those children?
No. And then the other key point is, you can't have a cookie cutter setup curriculum that goes across the board. Okay, because like I'm telling you, even though the curriculum we have for reading is okay, but the material that they use, the actual novels and the books they choose, are you kidding me? There's no cultural relevance to the kids. Right. So
remember that? Hold on, Diddy. Remember that? We talked about that at Adam. And how long ago that's been?
2009.
They didn't want to talk about cultural relevance at all. They shut us down immediately.
But you know
what? You have to.
But it's also not just everybody needs to be in these rotational groups and everyone needs to be doing something. That may not work with everything you're doing. That may be some days you need to do something different because these children don't know main idea. You know what I'm saying? So I can't do a rotation station. And again, I'm all for them. I do them. I've trained it. But you can't make it cookie cutter because it worked at one site or even for one teacher. Correct.
And you have to look at the because to me that's one of my biggest things. It's like there are so many great books out there. There's so many great resources, so much great material. If you just come off the teacher and let the teacher build it, especially reading language arts. I get language arts, but reading should be a free for all because reading, that means I should be able to pull any kind of text that I find that's relevant to my students. Like I have a class that's 90% boys. Why can't I use a book that all my books should be like, okay, geared to these boys that pull them interest, that have a high interest. We're going to do baseball this month. Next month, we're going to talk about basketball. Next month, we're going to talk about our favorite athlete. Next month, we're going to do sci-fi, whatever that they want to read. Because the buy-in for them is that I like going to reading class now because we can read what I want. as opposed to let's read a book about a little white girl from the 1800s.
And I will say this, as a former coach, as an instructional leader, and now just a classroom teacher, one of the things when you're dealing with struggling readers is you get the most bang out of your kids when the kids trust the teacher. When you have people constantly rotating in and out of the class, the kids aren't dumb. When you have the teacher constantly in flux, changing and feeling like they don't know what they're doing, the kids don't trust the teacher, therefore they're not going to perform. You have got to build that teacher up to be the best that teacher can be, so that kid can buy what that teacher is selling. If the teacher is unsettled, then the kids are going to be unsettled. And that across the district is the common denominator. And when we look at our system and how we attack achievement schools or turnaround schools or state oversight schools, teachers are not trusted. The teachers are nervous and they're standing up there reading and doing these best practices, but that's not
writing a bunch of stuff on the board that don't matter.
Right. And now the teacher, now the kids looking at you like, she don't even know what she's doing. And so now
the kids say that.
Yes.
And the kids will say that. Exactly. Because the kids will say, why you, right, because the kids will start by saying, why you started teaching this? Now these 4 people don't walk to the room, then to now the next day you got to put up cubes all over the classroom. Yes. And then in a month, 4 more people don't walk in the room and say, hey, that don't actually, we're not going to use that again. And in another month, 4 more people don't walk in the room and talk about, oh, maybe we should do it this way. Okay, guess what? I was in the middle of instruction. So now what do I do now? What do I do now? Oh, that anchor chart shouldn't be there. But that was the same when you told me to put up at the beginning of the year.
If they remember, they hired the individual that came with credentials.
Right.
Do they forget that they passed the test?
Right.
The certification requirement.
Right.
And they secured the job and should be considered an expert in their field. And if they need assistance, support, coaching, that is hopefully to make them better at what they're doing, but not to tear apart and devalue them as a teacher. We are the only profession that we are allowed to be nitpicked. Could you imagine a heart surgeon being picked apart?
Nope.
A neurologist being picked apart?
But you know why? Because they base it on your clientele. They base it on the fact that, you know what, you couldn't possibly be a good teacher when all these people came in here with all these deficits. Hold on, I met this person at 12 in August.
But remember, they put their best teachers with your most struggling kids and then wonder why you're not making miracles. They forget that part. At the end of the year, they're clear at the beginning of the year when they're scheduling.
I'm gonna just blink.
Or have never taught and not reminded of how the children entered that school with the many deficits.
Yep.
And have been taught to learn how to sit and struggle and grapple and not just be given answers and coached along the way. It's okay for children to struggle.
Right.
It is.
It's okay for them to try to figure it out. It's okay for them to effectively have conversation in cooperative groups and not be, because in other classrooms, they fighting, they spitting, they cussing, and ain't and they're not allowed to sleep during my class.
Right.
Correct.
Mine progressing, but I'm gonna move on.
Yeah, mine got to stand up in the back. So you don't sleep.
Look. So there's a couple more comments. So here we go, guys. It says, I left a micromanager to work in a school with wonderfully compassionate structural principles. Both schools Title I, but one boss creates a fluid, trusting atmosphere. And I say it again, nobody is running to achievement schools or Title I schools unless for one or two things. One, for money, and they're gonna figure out money ain't gonna get it ain't worth it.
Yep.
It ain't worth it.
Sure not.
They have a compassion. They are interested in helping those kids become successful and close the gap.
Yes.
Yep.
Because again, I've been in the same setting for 20 years. What's the first? All ed, Title I.
Yep.
I have always worked with students that majority of the school look like me, and they are the population that is struggling the worst.
Yep.
Why? How did it happen?
Yep.
How did it happen when we had several leaders of color that they cannot say they did not know when they were sitting in school board member positions, and there was not enough conversation happening around it? How you acting like you didn't know? And they're being brought back in positions to make decisions for our most underserved kids. How? Why? I want to know why. And then you're viewed as, I'm the disgruntled teacher.
Correct.
I'm the one that just want to be the loudest and the person that want to make the most noise. But why aren't more of us making noises? Yeah. Why aren't more of us questioning this whole process?
Well, a lot of times because stuff is done so secretly, most of us can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah. But again, our children continue to suffer.
Yeah.
This situation did not happen overnight in Hillsborough County.
Sure did not. It's been
our
going
numbers
on.
For suspensions and the disparities for African American boys and ESC students did not just happen in 2019, 2020, 2017, 2018, 2011. Oh, let's go back further. 2002. It was happening then, and the numbers were growing. Please don't tell me them 2 and 3, 0.2% is a difference. And then 1/8. Stop. We have not seen any exponential decline in our situation in the district.
Correct. And I have recently posted something that they talked about home ownership versus incarceration. Well, incarceration sure went up. Home ownership ain't moved.
Yeah.
So that means what are you telling me?
So let's just be honest. So until there is a shift in the individuals that are making decisions,
right,
that there is a true representation of people of color that's going to be a voice to what they see and is actual for our children of color in the district, there's not going to be change. And it's enough with putting people in position that's just going to just go along with it. What's y'all word? Complacent, complicit,
or putting people, or putting people in positions where, well, I'm already comfortable, so I'm not concerned about what goes on outside of that. And if you're comfortable, then you shouldn't be sitting there. You should be agitated and angry as hell. Then you make changes.
Yeah.
But being comfortable ain't gonna solve nothing.
But we always refer back to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Rosa. But those people went against when wrongdoings were happening to people of color, but we will parade them around, but we don't have the actual application of their overall thought process of when wrongdoing was happening to the children, to the people of color. But we'll surely plaster it around with this, Black History Month. Yeah. But we don't want the same thought process and the thought-provoking questions or those hard questions to be brought before the people to say, why? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you there?
Right.
You have not said nothing for decades.
Right.
So leave. Don't if you don't want to do the job, if you're not willing to ask the questions, the hard questions, and not just sit in the room and smile and think everything's okay or push through, move on.
And then the other thing too, if you're not ready for people to challenge what you're saying, then you really shouldn't.
You're not a leader at all anyway then.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you ain't ready for somebody to challenge what you have to say, then that's not the place to be. Don't shut people down. Don't shut people down. If people have questions, they need answers.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, open the books and show me where the money at. How is the money being spent? That's my whole thing. I always want to know a paper trail. How are you spending the money for A, B, C, D, and who's getting the check cut? Because why this school deficient in something and this school got something else? I need to know.
Yeah.
Run through.
Run through. Run it through.
We're not pushing through. We're running through.
Running.
We're not needing help to get up the run. They running through. Okay, so it says Sheila Davis says that praise the Lord, my administrators can and do step in and teach. And you know what, Sheila? Look, if you don't mind, Sheila, where you were? Because you know what?
I need to know.
Have any of y'all had what your administrators come in and teach for you?
Yes, I have this year.
Not me.
Wait. How many years you been in the district though, Portia?
I've been. This is my 11th year, and this year.
See what I'm saying?
And I'm at a non-achievement school, non-Title I school, where I have had an administrator come in and lead. My principal. I've also had my principal come in and root on my kids who are about to go on to test. I've had my APC come in. I mean, this has been my first year I have ever experienced that. But it's not an achievement school, and it's not a Title I school. And again, I have personally got people question why I have chosen to go to a non-Title I school, because I needed a break, because I've been at schools that's been ran through the ringer with a bunch of people who have been building their careers on the back of our kids, and it's not been
okay. Wait. You can't go fast on that. Hold on. Back up. You can't talk fast on that.
Building their careers on the back of our kids. Where for me, I gave my life to our kids. I can attest to that. To Sulphur Springs, she did. Riverview Terrace kids, even out here Progress Village kids.
She did. I remember saying to Portia when I don't know if you remember, I said, "Don't let these people kill you."
Yeah. Yep.
I said, "Stop letting these people use you."
Yeah. You should
because they will take what you're doing in your classroom and make it their own, and then then put another team of people around you to make it seem as though that they came up with the idea just by adding an extra word or two.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Unfortunately, that's how they roll here in Tampa. They roll like that.
Sheila says,
stop. I told you that.
You did.
And it came into full fruition, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am. It did.
Look, what Sheila's in Georgia.
Right.
Oh,
not
okay.
Florida.
Sheila.
Not Florida.
Sheila. Get off our live, Sheila.
But
welcome, Sheila.
It's very interesting to see what the other side of the tracks offer. And being in this past year, which is very different for me, it made me realize even clearer than I already thought that what we are doing in our system of support is not normal. We already see it's ineffective. It's not really working the way we want to work. And that's not to say we don't have successes somewhere, but as a grand scale, it is not working. We are dragging our teachers through the cold, the mud, the snow, everything. And we are losing the kids that we want to plaster up there all the time, saying we are targeting. And it starts with our systems of support and how we view our schools with the highest needs of kids. So when I am able to confidently say, I work at East Bay High School, my principal is Amy Cox. She has walked into my classroom, 10th and 12th graders, and she will teach. She's a former writing coach. She will teach. We did rhetorical.
Oh, she got some experience. She didn't talk before.
Yes. So even for me as a teacher, and again, I'm a former coach going back to the teacher, but you always are looking to learn. The best teachers are looking to learn. And when you have someone that has credibility, meaning they'll get right up there in front of those same kids and they're giving you that feedback on, you're more willing to take that feedback versus a suit who's never even worked in a school like yours or taught kids like yours, telling you what are best practices that is cute.
You hurting people's feelings.
I know. And
you know what bothers me a lot is that we refer to our schools that are demonstrating the most challenges academically as an achievement school.
Achievement
school.
Achievement is defined as a thing done successfully, typically by effort, courage, or skill. Yeah. Second definition, the process or fact of achieving something.
Yeah.
What you achieving? What you achieving though? The achievement is that the achievement
and
is
then the kid. Let me say this too, and
cut that check.
I have a problem with it being given a name at all for the kids know it, because the kids take that on as a derogatory, it's negative to them. Yeah, because that's the first. What school you go to? I go to Jennings. Oh, that's an achievement school. I've heard kids say that.
Yep.
And the thing is now you got the kids defending what type of school they go to when they don't have, most of them don't have a choice.
Yep. But that's like when they say I'm in intensive reading or intensified algebra. They feel like underachievers when you put that on their schedule or when you say that to them.
Yes, on the schedule like that.
Intensive reading.
Look, you got a boom class?
Yeah, I got it twice. Back to back.
Right. And I don't have no PE.
Right. No PE.
I don't have no PE.
Yeah.
Right.
Young babies be hurt.
Right. You in that
So
class.
then they gotta defend that too. Let me read some more messages, y'all. It says, Dr. Edwards says that I teach and my administrators all teach. And that's what it should be. So that if there is a point where more than one teacher out, get on in the room. Don't sit in the office that they shut the office down.
Yeah.
Right.
If you have taught before and you have relationships with the kids and you coming in the classrooms more than just for evaluations or coming through the hallways just to say stop, quit, don't. You built some relationships outside of just the negative.
Same with them coaches.
A little bit more.
Thank you.
Quit splitting them classes and go take them classes, coaches.
Right.
Coaches go.
But not just that.
And quit doing split plans.
Yeah, but add on to that.
Or coaches don't go in the office to be do administrative jobs and go help the
teacher.
Oh,
okay. Well, even so, counselors. Okay, time you say you can only counsel one child at a time. Well, guess what? Now, hey, if there's a sub shortage, you should be in class doing social emotional classes. Do something else. Everybody should have an opportunity to teach. No one should sit up in there. And anybody, especially if your office is located in the main office, you should at least come out at least twice a quarter, and you should be teaching somebody classes. You should be. Give everybody the full immersive experience. Yeah.
All right. It says, Elvis says, this is good. I'm grateful to hear the heart of our teachers. And that would be great if we start listen. We had a school board. People always ask, and I can agree with this now. I always, in the past, I was like, well, I wonder why more teachers don't show up to school board meetings. Number one, let's go back and look at the history of that.
We working.
In most cases, the times it conflicts with our schedules.
Yeah.
Right.
Number two, there has been situations where the teachers, when showing up at a school board at the meetings, are disrespected to a place of they feel embarrassed to even come back. It's as if they're not wanted there. So it becomes a point of, I am a teacher, but I am also a parent. I would like to come to a meeting or two. Oh, I have to make the decision between my job or being an advocate for my child and those in my community and those children in my family that look like me, that are the ones that's been disproportionately impacted by the inequities of the district. I'm not supposed to speak for them.
Yeah.
I'm just supposed to act like it's all okay.
Right.
The majority of the boys in my family, the kids in our family, are boys.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not supposed to talk about that, but okay.
No, but unless it's Black History Month, then you can go through. You come through.
Right. We can go to the February meeting. So until they address the time, move it around a little bit. So the opportunity is true one that is valid to say, yes, you can come, but trying to say, get to a meeting and getting on the list to be able to speak, you got to be there by 3:30.
Yeah.
4 o'clock, I think, latest.
Yep.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Y'all there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, we still here. We still here.
Geraldine, I'm on live. I'm going to call you back. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't hear y'all no more.
Is it getting low? The
I
volume
gotta
getting
go out and
lower?
come back. It was good. Look.
Okay. All right.
See how they show up? They just roll through. I gotta advocate for this one.
Yeah.
Before we get to middle school, let me go out and come back.
Okay. No, but she's hilarious. Okay, but no, that listen, everything that you said makes absolutely perfect sense. Because when I say the micromanaging, that part right there is not going to be helpful to the kid, and then the kids will keep coming back and saying, well, why do we have to do it this way? Is it because this person here, because that person here, what they here for? And just let people teach. Let them teach. I mean, to me, like, for example, I teach reading, but what we notice also is the deficits in writing. Their writing is atrocious. So I want to throw out there creative writing processes. Well, why we have to do that? What's the standard? What's it linked to? Where do you get that? Where's the data for that? Listen, they don't write well. If you sat in the classroom or maybe taught a lesson and you let them try to write the introduction, just a hook to a short story, okay? It's chaos. But you would know that if you sat there. And don't worry about tying it to a standard. Walk in the classroom and do your own assessment, and then go ahead and teach the lessons and let me know how that worked out.
And the key to that also is recognizing that kids are starting at different places. You have to meet the kids at different places, and success looks different. one of my biggest pet peeves is trying to standardize learning.
Wait, say that again for the people in the back. We are trying to do what?
Standardized learning. So when I say standardized learning,
I'm gonna throw something.
Every kid needs to do the writing this way and take the notes this way and put it on the paper this way. Well, now you're stifling kids' creativity, which then stifles their growth. A lot of the thinking they do in either whether it be reading, English, language arts, science, math, is critical thinking. And when you standardize learning, then you make them robots, widgets. And
you didn't mess me up with critically. That one.
So the challenge is how do you teach critical thinking? Well, then that looks different. That looks different by kid, by class, by everything. But when we are attacking turnaround achievement, DA, whatever we call it, we want something to present to non-educators or people who fought to get out the classroom. So standardizing learning is easily packaged and presented, but it's not good support for the kids or the teachers.
Right. Exactly.
You messed up with that one.
And that's exactly what I'm saying.
In standardized learning.
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying in terms of look at schools in East Tampa. So it's okay, look at schools where that school been sitting on a D for years. Well, why do they have to have the same curriculum that's at an A school? Obviously, the ones at the A school, clearly them kids are on level or they're pretty much right there. So now you're going to take the same curriculum and put it in a D school. You know these children start now for deficit. I mean, I've looked at some of the textbooks. I'm like, do you know everybody in this class is level 1? And if you have you looked at that science 8th grade science textbook, which is written like on a 12th grade level?
Right.
You really you're gonna pull success out of that. Okay, that's where you're gonna pull success from. I mean, God bless you, but then you want to know why all the science numbers are low. Yeah, everybody in science just.
I'm not a proponent. I think even with that, let's say you're doing the same curriculums, we need to know how to accurately measure progress. We just go it's either low or they're on target, but you can have that same standard, but the steps to get them there looks different. And the people that I'm talking to don't know what that looks like, so they are in the position of power to tell me what I'm doing is wrong when they don't even know what to do in the first place.
And let me jump in there. Let me double dutch right quick. See, if they came to me missing 5th grade completely, and when they were in 4th grade, they had been in third grade twice. Now, while in 3rd grade twice, and then when they got to 4th grade, they went from 3rd grade in that second time to 4th grade in the second semester. Like all those, that created just a whole breakdown in whatever it is that they learned the prior year, because you got these kids jumping all over. They're not building they're not taking the skill and using the building block the way that the actual standards are, developed. So I always say, where is the impact curriculum? What happened to that curriculum that was designed just to meet the areas that we know the children come in with? Gaps that they just don't know the skill at all. They have no recognition at all. What happened to them first 2 to 3 weeks after we get through the first week or 2 of the new school year? Like, what happened to that? Because now they just want you to start doing all this professional, what they say, community buildings, what they call it, classroom building, right? The classrooms or whatever it is. Well, that will happen regardless. If you are a teacher that have experience, that's going to happen regardless. You don't need to take a whole week to do that. That's just embedded in. But to say that we're going to continuously keep moving along and not addressing the things that they're missing, it's like a bridge that has a train track that at certain points there's at least 4, 5, 6 of the panels on the track that's missing. Yeah. So what could be the possibility? They could just crash and burn. Right. But we're not thinking about that. We just thinking that if we going fast enough, it'll just shoot across. Yeah. That's not happening. Yeah. That's not realistic.
Right.
So
they got that pray and spray mentality. Just what's a spray and pray? Just pair. It'll hit somebody. Yep. It'll hit somebody. But Cobb will tell you, you are getting a little choppy, and your I don't know if it's coming across. Is the same thing for you, Portia? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's coming across a little choppy. So I think at this point we might want to wrap it up because like you're delayed. I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
Okay. So last comment, then we're going to get out of here. Am I still choppy?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're still choppy. Yeah.
Oh.
Don't be sad.
All right. It says on here, one thing I want to say, Janice said, as a parent, I don't see much achievement during the pandemic plan. Nothing against the administration at our school, but I feel heavily weighted now because now the sole responsibility for the achievement is on the parent of the child who attends a Title I school. It says we need help. I feel like we were overwhelmed with those plans through this online learning. I'm for the task, but I agree that this was a problem that existed long before 2020. And that is it. This existed long before 2020.
Correct.
So if you're not re-entering the classroom and whenever we go back, or if you're not re-entering a leadership role whenever we come back, or we're not entering a new committee plan or appointment whenever we come back, and take notice of the inequities and the disparities that have existed.
Right.
Very much so for children of color, mostly ESC Black boys, you're part of the problem.
That's correct.
And that's all I got to say.
That's all I got. Yep. And just to throw it out there, your Hillsborough County, that we're gonna call this one the curfew that wasn't. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. This is D. Run it across. Just run it. Run it across.
Take flight. So this is April Cobb with April's Beauty Bar.
It's D from Carved Out Divas. And we are
diversity and
equity.
Look, we are education, and we thank Portia for coming on and always providing us expertise in the the high school realm. She got that good old middle school to high school experience, expertise.
And we loved it.
She was up there in them rooms with them people that were making decisions because she helped create the curriculum.
Amen.
Y'all also stuck in this phone, and we want to thank the wonderful behind the scenes platform that is hosting us.
Yes.
Bianca.
Yes. Good job.
Thank you, Bianca Guzzi.
So thank you, Teacher for the Culture, for hosting us. And thank you guys. Have a good night. And stop telling these kids y'all tired of them, even though y'all tired of them. They know you tired. Now do something. Change it into positive. I'm tired because I'm tired. Not because you're tired of them. Talk to y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye, buddy.